Hello.
Hi. Looks like somebody TP'd this place. The Blue Man Group, maybe?
Bright lights. Hi, everyone. As Barry mentioned, my name is Ari Buckhalter, CEO of Place Exchange. We're a programmatic supply-side platform, or SSP, in the digital out-of-home space. I'm joined by Joanna Foyle, Senior Vice President of Inventory Partnerships at the Trade Desk. Joanna runs all of the partnerships and operations for Trade Desk's global chain of omni-channel supply. And yes, is a veteran of the ad tech space.
Thank you for using veteran and not old G.
I think you've had senior leadership roles. Yes, I have some of that too. I think I might.
I blame COVID though. I don't blame
Exactly. It's all COVID's fault. But senior leadership roles at places like OpenSlate, AOL, Freewheel, Yahoo, Microsoft. So has seen it all. And thank you so much for being here today.
Of course. Thank you for the invitation. Thanks everyone for having us.
So would love to start by maybe zooming out a little bit. There's a lot of us in this room, including myself, that live and breathe digital out of home. It's sort of our entire universe. But of course, we realize that it's just a piece of a bigger puzzle. And for folks like the Trade Desk and all of the agencies and advertisers you work with, there's things like connected TV, there's identity solutions, there's all these other areas. So how does digital out of home sort of stack up in the landscape of priorities for a company like the Trade Desk?
Yeah, I love that question. And there's a few things on our plates these days for all of us to worry about, I think, as a digital industry as a whole. But one of the things I've been in this role for almost a year, and one of the things that's been the most exciting for me is to start explore channels that are more advanced and more sophisticated in other markets. So we're working on our integration now with Gojek, which out of APAC, which is massive numbers of screens in essentially the equivalent of Uber. Digital out of home is actually our fastest growing channel in EMEA. By a long shot, and admittedly, some of that is because last year it was probably the slowest growing channel because nobody was out of home. But fantastic to see that growth, and I just think we're poised to go nowhere but up in North America. And so, of course, I'm thrilled to be here today. I'm learning a bunch. It's actually my first out of home conference. I'm not sure if that's popular to admit, but it is.
Welcome.
Thanks. Y'all seem lovely. I think the other great sign that we're seeing is that clients are asking us about this channel. And that's always a great barometer for us at the Trade Desk around where people's focus is and what buyers are thinking about. Because at the end of the day, you'll hear us talk a lot as a platform about CTV, and as you mentioned, a lot about UID2 and identity. But the reality is, CTV still has a long ways to go and a lot of opportunity in front of it. But we have to be thinking about what's the next CTV, right? We have to be thinking about what's the next channel that has all this upside and all this room for growth and all this potential for advertisers to reach their consumers. And so that's part of why we're here today. So definitely in the priority stack, for sure.
Awesome. Well, that's a great aspiration for us to be the next CTV, Barry.
Maybe don't tweet that. Just don't get me in trouble.
Well, it'd be great.
It's not a prediction, it's an aspiration.
Yes, absolutely. A great aspiration to live up to. And so you obviously work with clients, agencies, advertisers that have been buying programmatically online, on mobile, on CTV and other channels that may not have purchased digital out of home programmatically before. But now that it's possible through platforms like yours, how do you guide buyers to think about this new channel?
Yeah, it's a great question. And as an omni-channel platform, as the largest independent demand-side platform out there, we take a really consultative approach with buyers. And I think part of the responsibility we take on in the partnership we have with our buyers as in taking on that really consultative role and that consultative position is to make sure they're aware of all the channels available to them in the platform, inclusive of digital out of home, and especially programmatically. And so that's definitely top of mind. And especially as we're embarking and going into 2022 planning, again, it's making sure that our buyers are thinking as holistically as possible as they can be about the consumer they're trying to reach, the purchase they're trying or action they're trying to draw out of that consumer, and to make sure that they're thinking broadly, not just about where that consumer lives on the internet, but where that consumer exists in the world, which is a big part of what we're talking about here today.
Yep. So as well as I do in the programmatic space, there are point solution DSPs, right? DSPs that serve sort of one channel, a mobile-only DSP, an out-of-home only DSP, and then there are omni-channel DSPs like the Trade Desk that work across all channels. How do you think about, or how do you talk to buyers about the benefits of or advantages of using an omni-channel DSP now that out-of-home is included within those versus, say, a point solution?
Yeah, I mean, now you're just serving me softballs. Like, nobody in the room, I don't think, is going to be surprised that we're gonna advocate for an omni-channel solution. But I think, I mean, listen, those point solutions served, and probably for many continue to serve, a really important purpose, which is in an advertising world that over time has been really fragmented, right? The TV buyers were over here, the out-of-home buyers were over here, us digital freaks who were there doing that like 20 years ago were like way over there. You know, and as I think, and by necessity, there was technology and solutions built for those respective teams and those respective buying modalities to answer the needs of that particular business. I think what you're seeing now, though, is that as buying consolidates, as digitization of advertising begins to bring those groups, those agencies, those buying teams together, you're seeing the technology by necessity follow suit. And so, you know, that's a lot of what we talk to our buyers about. And for a lot of our buyers, that's intentional because they need to be thinking about, as I mentioned, how those buys exist holistically for those consumers, right? So things like audience targeting, managing frequency to consumers. If you're just doing that in one vacuum over here in one particular channel and not accounting for the rest of those touch points elsewhere, you're not necessarily taking the most kind of holistic and responsible approach you can be to your
So it feels like an evolution over time. Like early on in a channel, you have those point solutions, but then as standards develop, as those processes integrate, as you're talking about, it sort of comes into the omni-channel fold.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's right. And a lot of that gets driven just by, you know, people don't want to necessarily have to manage multiple platforms. I mean, even think of us as consumers, like people are grumbling about how many CTV subscriptions you're managing. I don't want to have 2 email addresses. I only want to have 1 email address, right? So as things mature and by definition consolidate, we have buyers in the largest brands and the largest agencies in the world saying, I want all my dollars to live here. I want to be able to manage them in the same way across
So speaking of that maturation, you guys, the Trade Desk, have released some exciting digital out-of-home features, or are about to. Can you talk about those and any future plans for digital out-of-home?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely an exciting time. And I think lots more to come. And I think probably the biggest driver of change in our platform is, as I was mentioning, because buyers want to be able to manage all of their advertising in one place, they also expect there to be some amount of feature parity across those different ways of buying. So things like targeting and frequency capping, as I mentioned. We are releasing a planning tool into GA. I believe that's this week. That's going to allow, from a planning perspective, you to take screens and index those against first and third party data, which, as I've been told, has been long awaited. So hopefully that's good news. We're also releasing features that allow us to understand when screens are coming online in real time. Previously, I think that was on a quarterly refresh. So that'll make things like audience targeting and frequency capping and avails much more kind of in real time for folks as well. So, you know, and as people who work with me internally will attest to, we've got a long roadmap ahead. But like I said, we're definitely trying to make sure that we're prioritizing the features that our buyers need most to allow them to interact with the platform in a way that's commensurate with other channels like display and native, et cetera.
That sounds super exciting. We know there are a lot of people excited for those features to come out as well. Last question. We have a lot of media owners, or as we call them, publishers, in the audience today. What advice or guidance would you give them as those publishers think about the role that programmatic should play in their business strategies?
Yeah, I would say for first, like, you know, and we talked to our buyers about this too, like, please don't be afraid to ask what seem like simple questions. There aren't a lot of simple questions in this space. I mean, I feel like we sometimes in the digital world have made this infinitely harder than maybe it's had to be, but like, make people spell out the acronyms, ask the simple questions, just get involved. I would also say find partners that you can trust, whether it's Place Exchange or you know, other technology partners that you can trust, to whom you can ask those questions and whom you can rely on for the features and technologies you need. Because ultimately, you know, what you're after is monetization and connecting the content that you offer to the right buyers, and you need the right technology and relationships to be able to do that.
Fantastic, and thank you for the plug there.
No problem.
I think
it's
that
so
takes
natural.
Yes. Well, it's great to see you in person.
Of course,
thanks
likewise.
again for joining us at the DPAA Summit here. Barry, I think that takes us to the end.